Welcome everyone, and thanks for joining us today. I'm just going to quickly start with a few housekeeping items. So we'd love to hear from you. So if you do have any questions throughout the session, please feel free to pop them in the Q&A box, which you should see is separate from the chat box. And then I will field them at the end to our presenters. We've got an hour designated for the session, and as you just heard, it is being recorded. So if you'd like to share it with colleagues, please do, but just be conscious that there is a deadline of the 6th of May. So if you are watching the recording, just be aware of that, and you'll hear more about that deadline from the speakers. Okay, so today we're joined by Owen Wills, Emma Williams and Christina Martin of Monmouthshire Council, who are working on the Infuse programme. They're going to tell us a little bit more about the programme and how it's attempting to tackle big challenges such as accelerating decarbonisation and supporting communities. We're going to learn more about how the programme works and how to apply. So I'll hand over to Owen, Emma and Christina.
Bore da, good morning everyone. As Bethan has said, my name's Owen. I'm the Programme Manager for Infuse. We really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you as housing professionals today and to thank our colleagues in Community Housing Cymru for giving us this platform. You've received some information on the programme, and our role today will be to pique that interest. And for us, this is the start of a conversation. If I was to say to you that Infuse is the most exciting professional development opportunity for you as housing professionals across the Cardiff Capital Region, you would expect me to say that and potentially pass it off as sales. I think the question is, what if I was right? And we're going to talk you through some of the purpose and objectives of the programme, but also some of the impact and outcomes that we've been able to offer already. Some of you may be thinking, you saw that first slide and 2021 to 2023. Why haven't we heard about Infuse previously? Since 2021, we've been working with solely local authorities in the Cardiff Capital Region. The date that was mentioned to you earlier around Cohort 2, which I'll talk about in detail, is the first time that we've been able to open this up to other public and third sector colleagues to be part of this programme. So Infuse, what is Infuse? Infuse is an innovation and research programme designed to build the skills and capacity for the future services. It is an opportunity for different colleagues from different sectors to come together to focus on some of the biggest wicked challenges facing us and the communities that we serve across that region. We bring together teams of individuals in cohorts, as you heard me talk about, and we refer to individuals on the programs as associates, Infuse associates. Does anyone else on the call feel like you're stood on a burning platform currently? Need seems to be ever greater. The challenges that we face within communities, within the two themes that we'll outline today, seem to be ever more complex. Within my own county, we're going to be facing a 96% increase in community members 85 and over by 2043. You add to that things like the cost of living crisis, the challenges that our communities are currently facing, and you come to the position, and I'm sure you find yourselves there, where we need to look at new and different operating models. And innovation is one of those areas where we focus. Is there opportunity? Is there potential? And how can we really set the conditions within our organizations and within the region? How do we build an ecosystem for innovation? Infuse is a program that aims to support that and to develop the skills and the capacity, as I mentioned earlier. I'll start with just outlining that it's a partnership. So my colleague, Emma Williams, is the lab manager for procurement, and works for a partner organisation called Nesta, which is an innovation foundation. In addition to the partnership, we have Cardiff University and the Cardiff Capital Region team. The partnership is also bolstered by the 10 local authorities across the Cardiff Capital Region. The opportunity now for you is to be part of that in Cohort 2. So Cohort 2 will run from June 2022 to December 2022. So it's around 6 months of investment. We have the opportunity for 30 local authority officers to join us and 15 individuals from perhaps the housing sector, other public and third sector organisations. That is due to funding constraints and nothing else. But we understand that a collaborative approach is the answer to some of these wicked challenges, as I referred to earlier. I'll also start by outlining the fact that your investment, or that of your colleagues, the teams that you lead in the Infuse programme, is simply your time. There is no financial commitment from you other than that. It is a fully funded programme through the European Social Fund by the Welsh Government. I touched on a collision space earlier, and I think I'll talk to you about the 5 phases of Infuse. We aim to provide a significant amount of support, some challenge to really push you as individuals to develop through the Infuse process. Those biggest challenges that we face we'll explore in a minute, but I suppose my first question for you to ponder: what are the burning challenges that you are facing within your organisation and the communities that you serve currently? If you had to choose one of those big burning challenges to bring with you to Infuse in June, what would that be? Just ponder that as I go through the next couple of slides. So for Cohort 2, we've looked at a redesign to really embed the radical and collaborative nature of the challenges that we're looking to address together. So first of all, we look at the Inspire phase. This is focused primarily on relationship building, innovative thinking, and the kind of core of our programme. We move on to Learn and Activate. I'm sure, like me, many of you will have found yourselves in that space where the pressure of the day job is significant. How much time have you spent being proactive as opposed to reactive in the last 5 years or more? We will look at how we frame a problem. How do we collaborate with our communities, within our organisations and across the region? How do we embed those innovation tools, methods, processes to ensure that we're asking the right questions, not simply jump into solutions, which I've certainly been guilty of in the past? We move on then to data and procurement as being another two key elements to our programme. How do we use data to make the most effective decisions? How do we become data enabled as organisations and as a region? How do we leverage that £2 billion of public spend across the Cardiff Capital Region to benefit the communities, the businesses, the economy, and individuals across our county and region? How do we ensure that our communities play a bigger role in their lives, within the challenges that they face? And I think COVID is an excellent example of how communities rallied to really make a difference, to build those neighbourhood networks, which we as professionals have certainly struggled with. A key part of our programme, this is not a solely academic programme, this is about application to the real world, to your challenges that you face on a daily basis. So how do we get those ambitious ideas, working collaboratively, and apply the learning to see if those ideas, the problems that we've framed and the solutions that we've tested, do they work? Are they scalable? What do we need to move forward? And then for Infuse, the journey doesn't finish. I mentioned 6 months earlier. We have an alumni. We are building an innovation community, and individuals with the skills, the tools, the knowledge, if you like, working collaboratively on other challenges after that 6-month period. So it's about creating that innovation change for public, for third, and for the housing association community. If we can move on to the next slide, please, Julia. That's fantastic, thank you. So accelerating decarbonisation, a relatively new challenge to organisations such as yours, but definitely a huge challenge for us as a region and as a nation. What we've done is we've broken the overarching theme of Infuse down into some challenge areas, which you will see there and will resonate, no doubt, with the challenges of your organisation. And looking through some of the corporate plans and others that you've got definitely resonates with your objectives. So fuel poverty, energy efficiency of buildings, and no doubt many of you will be working with the optimised retrofit programme. A key part of Infuse is we provide the space for experiments, for new and innovative ideas, but we ensure that we are linked in with key programs such as that optimised retrofit programme also. How can we look at the behaviour change around carbon reduction that we need? How do we bring people, communities, organisations with us? Land use, transport, there may be asset managers on the call at the moment. Within our previous cohorts, we've got fleet managers looking at how do we move to ultra low efficiency vehicles. What are all of the factors that we need to take on board for that? So we've got some videos that back this just to explain, and those videos are delivered by our the professors that back these, so our research associates. Next slide, please, Julie. So supportive communities is our second theme. It's a key theme for us, and you will quickly notice that the themes are intertwined. So I think we'll have to go back one slide, please, Julia. Thank you, that's fantastic. So the two themes are definitely interconnected, but I also believe that within your sector, these are some of the key objectives that you're working towards, from my understanding and my partnership working in the past. So public participation and democratize community wealth building and the foundational economy, community power and that asset-based community. How do we start with what's strong, not what's wrong? And I'm more than aware that this approach is embedded across your sector. And then social justice. All of these are challenge areas that we're going to be encouraging individuals who would like to participate in the programme and become associates to collaborate on, to make a difference, to trial and experiment in these areas. Next slide, please. So I've referred to these, but just to make it clear, the innovation process that Infuse delivers has 2 themes and 3 labs. So these innovation labs are tried and tested ways to embed the skills, the knowledge and the capacity in us as public servants. Adaptation Lab is the first. This is the process that is right at the start of Infuse. Data, as I've mentioned earlier, how do we ensure that we're applying data techniques when we're making the decisions in our day-to-day work, and in strategy, and then procurement. Next slide, please. What are we hoping to achieve? You've heard me mention a number of times around the skills, the tools, the methods, but to add to that, a different way of thinking and a different approach to problems for you, for us, and for the region in the future. Collaboration runs throughout Infuse, and we've been able to prove that with 4 or more organizations working together and different skill sets and backgrounds, we're able to create the solutions to the challenges, to embed them and to experiment. We've got a host of case studies, which some of you may have seen, but we'll ensure are in the kind of follow-up email to this, and you'll be able to see how that kind of could impact roles like yours that you carry out. And I've mentioned the alumni previously, so next slide, please, Julia. I would like you to see Infuse as an asset for you, for your organisation, and just to outline, it is a significant team and a significant investment in the innovation programme Infuse. So we have teams that sit behind you or your colleagues as associates and support the experiments, support the skills development and the learning. And that is a mixture of doctors, professors from the academic world, innovation specialists like Emia, data analysts and scientists that back up the complete approach, I suppose, to the innovation that we're trying to bring forward. I've mentioned the local authorities, but also for Cohort 2, from June, we're hoping to bring a wide range of public and third sector organisations, such as what you see there. Next slide, please. I'm just going to spend a minute or two giving you some of the examples of what has been achieved previously. So Cohort Alpha was our prototype. We worked with a small group of public sector, of public servants. The aim was for us to test and trial some of the ideas, some of the research, some of the approaches for Infuse. There was a range of different roles, and you may be thinking to yourself, you know, what level does Infuse look to engage with? We are looking for leaders, strategic or operational leaders, but also future leaders. Some of you, I noticed, are kind of in the organizational development and training area. You may have succession plans that you're working on at the moment. Infuse is a great place for your future leaders to build some of the skills, knowledge, and indeed the networks to move forward. So the case studies that I touched on earlier, we have a range of case studies all available on the website. There's a link there which will ensure that you have. But one I think that is related to your area is how can we utilize data, GIS specialists to look at that prioritized decarbonisation of residential properties, a space that I know that you are already in. Embedding an asset-based approach for local authorities, but for counties and for the region. How do we build the skills to change the approaches to that? How do we work with communities as opposed to for or to? And then carbon literacy and the training, which was an experiment and a development. We know that with any behaviour change, you need to invest, you need to support individuals. And with things like the optimised retrofit programme, changes will be happening to individuals' homes. And how can we raise their knowledge, excite them around the world of carbon decarbonisation? Next slide, please. So within the last couple of weeks, we've just completed Cohort 1. So 29 associates from 9 of the 10 local authorities, again, a range of individuals from fleet managers to energy specialists, individuals from social services looking at how do we work on some of that social care and health crisis which is happening at the moment. How do we improve the outcomes for residents in day services? Could a carbon dashboard, would that be interesting to you as organisations, to the region, in terms of how we need to analyse the implementation that happens across the board? How do we know that's working? How do we measure that? So Cohort 1, we're in the process of kind of wrapping up the skills delivery element of Cohort 1, but they are still very much engaged in the programme. They are completing the first stages of their experiment, but also I'd like to talk to you about an opportunity, and what we think is a pretty unique opportunity as part of the Infuse programme. Every associate on the programme has the opportunity to engage in reverse mentoring. Reverse mentoring may be an idea that, a principle that you've come across previously. For us, it means that the associate leads a mentoring session with the chief executive, with the chair of their board, with a senior leader within their organisation for 1 hour a month for 3 months. So they come prepared, they come with challenges that are related to them, their work practice and their organisation. So the second of my questions for you to ponder, and I'd really appreciate it if you could write this one down for me, because should you apply for the programme, which I hope you will, this is one that I'm going to hold you to account on. So I was going to say Friday, but Friday's bank holiday. So Thursday this week, if you had an hour to mentor your senior leader, your chief executive, your chair of the board, however senior you are in the organisation, what would be the key point that you would want to support them and mentor them on? Where would you start? And I'm just going to give you a couple of seconds just to think that through. And perhaps whilst I talk through some of the benefits that we found to that reverse mentoring, will you jot that one down for me? So what is it, if you were the mentor meeting with your chief exec, what would that focus be? Where would you start? The reason for reverse mentoring for us is kind of second session on our adaptation lab. We talk about how imperative it is to have senior leader buy-in with any innovation within our sectors. Change can be a challenge, especially in areas where bureaucracy and rules exist. With that reverse mentoring for us, it also embeds the learning. You'll all appreciate, whether it in home life or work, learning something is one thing, but being able to deliver that to others means that is deep learning. So the reverse mentoring is a key part of the programme, as is the experimentation phase. And it really helps us to embed innovation, the learning, the tools and the skills, and also maximise the impact of the programme across the organisation. Next slide, please. Just before we sum up, and I'd really like to invite questions within the Q&A section, if possible, for us as a team, and perhaps I'll bring my colleague Emmy in a minute. We want to say that Infuse, as I set out in the kind of first sentence, our role is to build the skills and capacity for those future services. We have a sister programme, which some of you may have come across. The Cardiff Capital Region Challenge Fund is aiming to build kind of local wealth, creating jobs, bringing together public and private sectors to deliver those solutions that I've mentioned, and also where there is a route to market for that solution. You can see the aims, kind of those four big aims of the Cardiff Capital Challenge Fund. But the reason why I mention it is our kind of role is capacity and skills, experimentation. With any innovation, resource is usually the next challenge. So we encourage, we support, and Challenge Fund deliver on our programme also the opportunity to to put a proposal in to the Challenge Fund for some of that £10 million to support embedding that innovation. So Infuse comes with that opportunity for you to bid into this. And I know one of your housing colleagues' organisation is currently working with a public sector organisation on a bid at the moment. So there's an opportunity, is what I will finish with. If you wouldn't mind just popping onto the next slide for me, Julia, and I'll just sum up, if that's okay. So a quote, a David Bowie quote, I believe it is, that a colleague of mine uses on a regular basis, which I will steal in this instance, is tomorrow belongs to those who can hear it coming. Infuse is about investing in your future and that of your organisation, the communities that you serve, and the region. We are looking for courageous, potentially frustrated, motivated individuals to join us and join the team, which will be Cohort 2 on Infuse from June to December. The closing date for applications is the 6th of May. You can access all of the materials, so you can read up on the guidance for that application on the website, as can you find the kind of promotional materials and assets and some of the case studies. We would really like to hear from you in terms of questions now, any practical or strategic questions that you've got. But in the point that I started early on with about starting a conversation, we would like you, if you're interested individually in the programme, we would love a conversation. If you feel that you can help to share this with your organisation, with your network or partners that you work with, we'd also like to support you. We feel that we've got that exciting opportunity. We would like to share that with you. We would like you to be part of making that changes, some of those changes to the region that we know you're already engaged with. We also understand that without a collaborative approach to these wicked challenges, we don't believe that we will have the success that matches our ambition as a programme. I will finish there. If I could encourage you to put any questions, any comments that you have within that Q&A session, myself or Emia will come back and share our thoughts on those. Thank you, Bethan.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Owen. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to either pop them in the chat or in the Q&A. That's fine. I can't see any in there yet, Owen, so it could be that people need to go away, perhaps look at the slides again, have a think about. I think there was maybe a lot to take on. Maybe have a think about the offer and come back. So what we as CHC can do is we'll send a follow-up email with all the links that you mentioned. We can include your contact details and also the recording and the slides, and for people to perhaps to share with colleagues. As long as that's okay with you, we can share your contact details. Okay, fab, brill. I don't know if Ahmed wanted to come in, because I think when you say Ahmed was going to come in on something, I'm not sure.
He nominated me to come in on if I felt you missed anything out, but as always, he does a very comprehensive job. I could go into a bit more detail about the labs if that's helpful, but I don't know if that's going to be too much information on top of everything else. So I was going to see if there was any questions about that first.
Well, I still can't see any questions. I'll just check the Q&A. No, there's none in there. So we've got some time if you want to go over the labs.
Yeah, I'll go through them briefly just because I think it's helpful. Sometimes the titles can be a bit intimidating, really. You might need a bit of expanding. So the three labs that Owen ran over, I'm leading on the procurement lab. I'll go into a little bit more detail about that. But the adaptation lab is also run by a colleague in Nestor and Harrod. And that gives you associates the information, tools and techniques to help you understand how to adapt innovation successfully, but taking in consideration the different contexts and needs of your area. So we recognise that there's successful interventions and innovations elsewhere that have helped address some of these challenges, but they need to take account of local context and be adapted for success. So we look at how different methods of doing that. But then there's also innovation techniques such as problem framing, service design, stakeholder mapping, theories of change and prototyping, all of which are really designed to help you think about the big challenges and how you interrogate what it is you're trying to achieve, why, and if or how it's been addressed elsewhere. So that's the initial adaptation lab. There's then the data lab, which is looking to help you ask good data questions by exploring the different types of data, the importance of data ethics, and applying data science techniques. I think the main point really to take home from it is that it teaches you how to think about data differently, and how it can be used effectively to ensure you reach the outcomes you're looking for. So it's trying to change the emphasis of, rather than having a lot of data and saying, oh, what can we do with it now we've got all this data, it's about thinking about the outcomes you want to achieve and then how data can help you reach those goals. And really importantly, you don't need to have any experience in data or data analysis or be an expert in Excel. It's accessible to anyone. I'm not a data expert, and I've sat through all of the sessions and found them really helpful as well. And then finally, in relation to the procurement lab, I know from personal experience and my own views that the term procurement can put people off pretty quickly, unless they're procurement professionals. But the lab really isn't about the act of purchasing or simply for procurement professionals. I think it's better to think about it as how you maximize the impact of your public spending, because when it's deployed effectively, procurement can secure maximum value for money by enhancing the wider community benefits and addressing decarb. So public bodies need to think more strategically about how they spend their money. Instead of looking at simply the lowest cost of something, think about the whole life value of contracts and the wider strategic aims that could be achieved through public spending. So how you might benefit the local or foundational economy, who you can work with to maximize social value, and how do you consider sustainability as an opportunity rather than a chore. And the key thing to stress, I think, is that all of this can't be achieved by procurement professionals and requires everyone in the organization to get an understanding and how they can influence this agenda. So I think it's, rather than thinking about this as a lab looking at how to buy things differently, it's about a change in mindset of how public money is spent and how everyone in the organization can help contribute to that agenda. So that's a very brief overview of the different labs, but hopefully that might give people more food for thought.
Brilliant, thanks, Emma. Just a practical question then. If someone was to look to get involved, what's the likely kind of time commitment that someone might need to set aside to take part?
Thanks, Bethan. So this is a change that we've made for cohort 2. So we've put there is a reduction in the time. There is initially, it is 2 days a week for the first 5 weeks to really embed in that inspire phase that I mentioned earlier, and that drops to a day and a half a week as we go through the program. The point that I would like to make, it is an investment of which we've talked about, Bethan, previously, but the investment is in areas where we hope you will already be working. It's just, if you work as a team with some of those specialists that sit behind it as well, you may be able to carry out that work and that investment, if you like, better, quicker, smarter, with bigger impact for the communities that we serve. So it's an investment, but there is also an asset that you're becoming part of in terms of Infuse.
Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you, Owen. We haven't got any more questions in the chat or the Q&A box. So I think we'll wrap up there, let people have a think about it, and I can pass all the details through on email. If anyone wants to get in touch with you, then they can. So thank you everyone for joining us, and thank you Emma and Owen and for Christina for the work that I know you've done behind the scenes. and attendees will receive a follow-up email from us with all the details and the recording in as well. And so thank you all, and I hope you have a good rest of the day.